just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee.
Good morning. Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live from here in Armenia, Colombia. Excuse me. So, well, let's take a look at the greetings, and then we'll get on with our day. Rob, good morning, Rob. How you doing? I got a story for you. Dennis, howdy, Dennis. Mark, hello, Mark. How you doing? Robert, nice to see you from Cali. Thank you for your referral. No problem. Juka. Thank you as always. Mike Jarvis. How's the breakfast sausage? Did you ever make it? Was it good? Mike Carroll, video, audio, good. That's awesome. I had an indication just as I was turning this on that there might be a lag between what I'm saying on the screen versus what you're hearing, like a very slight lag. But I had already started. It was too late to do anything. So hopefully it's not too bad. Turtle, how you doing? Mark again, anything new regarding volcano activity in the area? Colombian friend in Bogota sent me information this week, but I've not found a chance to call him and ask about it. It was in Spanish. Well, it's nothing out of the ordinary. There is the typical volcano that when I was living in Manizales, I could actually, on a clear day, see the smoke coming up off it. It's not always, but I guess it had a little minor eruption. I saw a little video clip of it. It's an active volcano, and that happens. It's not like, I don't know what more to say about it. It's pretty common for that particular one. Mike, no lag. Turtle, yes, there's a lag. Okay. I have a hunch that there's a lag, but I don't know. We'll see. There's nothing I can do about it now anyway. But if there is a lag, I believe it's probably on my end. The setup's pretty complicated, actually. There was a lag, but no mas. Okay. All right. That's awesome. Maybe it corrected itself. Oh, and no lag. All right. So no lag it is. Today, also I don't want to leave out just before I started. Jerry, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And today you'll see why these things are so important. Today's topic, my biggest disappointment. Now, I've had a few. When the visa laws change, it's more of a pain in the butt than a disappointment. Yeah, I guess I can't really say I'm disappointed because there's nothing out of the ordinary, unusual about it. And the election, that was definitely disappointing. But the other side of the coin is nothing's really happening. So, so that's good, except for the things that I tell you about, which don't really amount to much. But this was a personal disappointment that really affected me. And I'm going to have to give you a little background. And some of you who've watched for a long time will know bits and pieces of this. But if I don't give you the background, you won't know why I'm disappointed. I tell you, don't avoid the touristy things. They're touristy for a reason. It's because they're good. Like the Parque del Cafe. It's an amusement park, but it's a really good one. And it's expanded so much. There's so much going on. I think they got like 6 different roller coasters there. I mean, it's things big, but it also has, if you don't like roller coasters or rides, there's shows that you can go to, and there's a lot going on. It's not just amusement park. And I definitely recommend, people should go at least once. It's worth it. And I've always touted Panaca or Panica or however you want to say it. Let me see. Right there. That's the front page of the website. Panaca. And some of the history, it's near and dear to my heart. 20 some years ago when I was here, I went there and it had just been open for a couple years, but there was a lot going on. And it was really busy. I don't just mean busy like big crowd. I mean busy like there was a lot of activities happening there. Think of it like Williamsburg. When you go to a place like that, you walk along and you see people dressed in their traditional garb, and they might be showing you how they made a stew, and they're using, the old pot over the fireplace. And you go to the next place, it might be a blacksmith shop. So it's a slice out of the past, and it's kind of immersive. Well, that's what Panaca was. It was kind of immersive. And you could see things like how they used to make the panela, the raw sugar, and they made it by hand, and how that was done, or how they made arepas. They, starting with the ground corn, and it was quite interesting. But it wasn't just that. There was a lot of things going on. I've talked endlessly about how hilarious it was to watch the pig races, and you could bet money. There's numbers on the side of the pigs like racehorses or greyhounds, and people would be betting money and drinking beers, and it was just a good time. It was hilarious. You could go horseback riding, and my personal connection to this is there were horses, and my step-grand. We were poor for about 3 years, but I had step-grandparents, and they had a horse ranch. At any given time, 50 or 60 horses there. And they would do riding tours and things like that. And I would be enlisted to go down and help out, shovel the poop. But riding horses was second nature. The first horse I ever rode, I think it was 5 or 6 years old. And, horses it was no big deal. As a matter of fact, I probably kind of resented them more than anything else because it's not fun shoveling poop, but I knew my way around a horse. And when I went there, I was with, she was not my wife yet, but the person who I ended up marrying, my second wife. She was Colombian, and I met her when I was down here. And a couple of her mother was there. I think it was her uncle and aunt. There were probably 4 or 5 of us in the bunch. So everybody wanted to go horseback riding. Well, Jenny, she's like 5 foot nothing, and she was a little afraid of the horses, but come on, let's go. And she'd never ridden a horse. So we start out, and the guys, the tour guy. He's there explaining to everybody how this is going to go. And for some reason, her horse just bolted. And she's screaming and the horse is just running down the road. And the guy who's the tour guy, you're just there staring like you didn't know what to do. So, you know, I kicked the horse in and chased her down and got the horse to stop. And I helped her down off the horse. And she was shaking like a leaf and like that. And it was a moment because when we ended up getting married, she actually proposed to me. And at some point, you know, you have these conversations. You say, well, why did you decide that you wanted to marry me? You know, what made you fall in love or whatever? And she would point to that particular moment when I caught the horse and helped her down off the horse. You know, I guess Disney's alive and well. But, you know, I had this connection, and it was a lot of warm feelings, and it was a lot of fun, and it was interesting, and I love history, and there was a lot of history going on. And Howard, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work. I'm trying. So I hadn't been back there since that. I went that one time, never went back, and I wanted to go. I've been back in Colombia, we're going on 5 years, and I've wanted to go back, and for one reason or another, I had a trip planned, then COVID hit, and it's just always something. So this time I'd planned it out, and I invited a friend of mine and her 4-year-old daughter. You don't want to go to these things alone, particularly if you're doing videos. So I invited them along, and so they're all excited, but I'm worried about rain. You know, it's outdoors. It's not going to be the best of thing. And it was supposed to get rain in the afternoon. So got up and headed out early in the morning. I wanted to get there at 9 when they open. So it's I won't say downpour, but it's pretty steady, drizzly kind of rain the whole way there, and it's very overcast. And I'm going, oh, you know, not looking good. But I'm doing some videos along the way. Let's see. See if I can play this while I'm doing it. And you see in this video, you see this, it's kind of a blue tint. Well, I didn't know this until I got back and I downloaded. Yeah, by the way, all the music in this video, it's all AI generated. No human put this music together. Nobody played the instruments. This is all AI generated. And hopefully it's not too loud. It's clashing with my voice. If I need to turn it down, let me know. But my beloved camera that I could carry everywhere, kind of incognito, like this, show you. So I kind of carry it like that. And people don't really notice it, which is very useful in places where you're not really supposed to have a camera. It's also easy to carry around. It's not cumbersome. People don't act funny with this like you would with a camera. Oh, I'm on camera. Put that away from me. So I got this, 3-4 years ago, and it was like $500 plus some accessories that you kind of had to buy with it. And so for me, big investment. But it's been going for 3 years, minus the year of COVID and illness spells. But I've used this camera a lot. So I get back and I take a look, and it's all blue except for 3 or 4 clips, which are normal. So I go on the internet and find out that there's some defect with this. Essentially, I can't find any way to correct it, and the video just doesn't cut it. I can promise you it wasn't blue. So I'm kind of heartbroken over that. Big disappointment. But let's get back to the crux of the issue. Panaca is near Quimbaya, and it's on this little country road, which you're looking at right now. You guys still there? All right. And the first thing as we pull in, you got a parking fee. Yeah, okay. Now on the internet before I went, I'm trying to see, I'm living on a budget, so I'm trying to figure out, you know, what's it going to cost. And I had this thing about all inclusive. There was this statement on it. And just to be sure, I translate it to English, make sure I was reading it correctly. And, you know, food's not included, but, you know, most of your things. Well, I pull in and there's a parking fee. Now, it's not going to break the bank. It was 12,000 pesos, but it was something I didn't expect. They also, I told you she had a 4-year-old daughter. 4-year-old daughter is really small. Picture, no, well, picture wouldn't have a reference anyway. But is there a temperature setting in the camera? Yeah, but that's not it. And the worst part was I put it in my program and I tried to color correct, and it was so weird I could not get, no matter how I spent 2 hours on one clip trying to get a color adjustment, a color correction, and there's something so screwed up with it, I just couldn't get the colors to look right. I could get them to look better, but I couldn't get them to look right. This was actually going to be a standalone video, and I was going to talk about it. Well, I can't make it a standalone video because the quality is just so crappy. You know, but when I was trying to edit it to be the standalone video, I spent so much time on color correction, and it just wasn't cutting it. So anyway, where was I? Oh, little girl. So it had a thing on the internet about young children. It wasn't specific, but it was something like young children are free. So I assumed she was going to be free. And if not, maybe half price or something. So they said, well, go over there and measure height. Well, the measurement is if you're over 3 foot and over, you pay. And you pay full price. DJI Pocket 2 is $279. And with I'm aware they're cheaper now than when the Osmo Pocket 1 first came out. They've gotten cheaper, but on that, unless I can put together when I have money for one and somebody's coming down, there's $100 tax on that camera. So whatever the price is, it's $100 more. But I can, when I have the money set aside for it, people are coming down to visit all the time, I probably work something out. But the thing is, that's a lot of money for me, and I got one right here, it's like, damn it. And then the other thing is the Pocket 2, none of the accessories that I had to buy, which ran about $150, work with, they became obsolete when that came out. But anyway, sidetrack. So we measured her, and she's just over 3 foot tall. It's not half price, it's full price. And the price is pretty high. Now, remember, I'm living in this economy with this kind of money. It's different if you're sitting in the United States and your earnings and everything is like 4 times more. But even here, in comparison, Parque del Cafe, which is this full-blown amusement park with tons of stuff happening, is about half the cost of what Panaca is, or Panaca. So it cost me $300,000 to enter, plus parking. So something else, my friend who I invited, she had a motorcycle accident and broke her leg, didn't break her leg, shattered her leg, the upper bone in your leg, tibia, is it? The upper bone. shattered in a million pieces. So she's got this rod in her leg and 10 stainless screws in her leg, and this was less than 6 months ago. So she walks, it's very painful after a short period of time, and she walks kind of like, well, like she's got 10 screws and a rod in her broken leg. But it was not to worry, because they used to, and they advertise it on the internet, they have this shuttle that runs. So you go to one area, because it's really spread out. So you would ride the shuttle to one thing, and then when you're done there, you could jump on the shuttle and go to the next one, and like that. Wow, that's a lot in Colombia, 300,000. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I was kind of shocked. But anyway, mostly I knew the price for the 2 adults. I can't believe they charge for a 4-year-old girl that's just like tiny. But anyway, or charge full price. So that was an issue. There was a lot of walking, and the shuttle, we saw it sitting there when we got there, but it wasn't running. And we were there till mid-afternoon, and it ran one time. And it only ran from the front to bring somebody who paid them extra to take them to a particular spot. So there's no shuttle running around to pick you up anywhere. If you were in the front and you wanted to pay extra, you could get them to take you out there, but there was no shuttle to pick you back up. So she had to walk in a lot of pain as we got about halfway through. I don't know how many miles we walked, but it was up some steep hills and down and off into the woods. And well, well, you guys actually probably saw it here. Let me see if I can run that back. Hold tight here. If I can get back here. Where are we here? Yeah, there was, that's them actually walking up the path. And that's how most of the walking was. You saw how high I was compared to how low they were. It was like that a lot. And so, you know, it created an issue. And the backup plan was that we would hop the shuttle. It didn't happen. And her daughter was really enjoying it. And so she wanted to, you know, she suffered basically so that it wouldn't cut her daughter short because she was into it. So there was that. And, you know, you start getting petty after a while when you're annoyed with certain things, like the coffee was double or triple the price and it was crap. It tasted like instant. The empanadas were like 4 times more than you can buy them pretty much anywhere, and they were greasy and kind of sucked. Everybody that we ran into that worked there had this attitude, like this chip on their shoulder. Like the very first thing, I wanted to grab a quick coffee, and as we're starting out on our little journey, there's this place, pretty good size, and this lady there, and I asked for coffee, and she said okay, and then my friend said, well, she'll take one too, okay. So I go back to get it, because it's not like you have a choice, it's just coffee, you know, and it's in a big stainless thing with a little glass thing showing you how much coffee's in it, kind of thing. And I went back, and she said, no, go get it from the next place. Well, that entire day, every time I saw that place, there was no customers there because she would refer them off. She was too lazy to even pour a cup of coffee. So it's things like that that really start getting under your nerves when you're annoyed with some bigger things. It wasn't a pleasant environment. And there was this sign in Spanish, but it was talking about customer service and how important it was, and it was a saying or a statement by Walt Disney. And when I thought back how it used to be, it could have been a Disney property, and now it may be a Disney property that gone bankrupt, taken over into receivership, and nobody cared. That's what it felt like. And I'll get in my last jabs here. There were no shows, no presentations. There's no showing you how panella's made, none of that stuff. You would walk to an area, like the first area we walked to was ducks. And there was a little pond there, and there were, 3 or 4 ducks. And they'll sell you stuff to feed them that was ridiculous. I mean, it was like you could go out and have dinner for the price of, this little bag of stuff to feed the animals. And yeah, like I said, you get petty after you got burned a little bit. So ducks, it's like, whoopee, ducks. So we get to the next one. It's cows. Then we get to the next one, and it's goats. And then we saw the pigs. And then we saw the chickens. And I go, you got to be freaking kidding me. It was just all farm animals that you could see anywhere for free. The only thing that was really happening is you could go horseback riding. That was at the very end of what we did, and we're so exhausted, and she was in so much pain. I felt so bad for her. There's no way we're going to go horseback riding. Plus, they said that even though her daughter had to be full price, she's too small to ride the horse. Okay, well, if she can't do the things, then why are you charging? So, the whole thing was, it was a ripoff. It was just an overpriced, false promises, nothing happening. It was polar opposite of my experience back when it was just opened a couple years. I guess I'm trying to express to you, and I don't think I'm able to do it, how disappointed I was. I mean, I waited 20 some years to return to this place. I've always thought about it. I kept the brochure from 20 some years ago. It's all tattered, and it's like, I would go on the internet every once in a while, and they got a great internet. It makes it look awesome, and check it out. And it was such a disappointment. And then, to throw in, and I find out my camera's not working. Kind of. Oh, they did have ostriches, so that was kind of cool. But here they do the ostriches like everywhere now for the eggs and for the meat, so it's here it's also just a basic farm animal. There was nothing. Oh, okay. So we got all those farm animals, right? It goes downhill from there. Walk to another pavilion. It's cats. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe we got some pumas. No, they're cats. You got a tabby cat. You got cats. And so then we walk a little bit further, and I'm hearing roo, 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 roo. Dogs. Some awesome looking dogs there. There's some huskies that are just gorgeous. I'm a sucker for labs, and they had some golden labs that were just beautiful. If they weren't purebred, they sure looked it. I mean, they're just gorgeous. And I will say they take good care of the animals there. Like well groomed, well fed. But there was hundreds of dogs there. I mean, what? If I want to see dogs in the wild, all I have to do is go to the south part of Armenia, walk down the street, and I'll see street dogs. Used to be you never saw street dogs, but in this last year or two, not in the north, but down in the south, you're starting to see street dogs pop up, and they've been talking about it. City government's been talking about it. So that was my biggest disappointment. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm not kidding about this, that every day I wake up here, I feel like I'm on this adventurous vacation. I mean, most things don't faze me anyway, and I never really get disappointments, you know. At least none that are going to bother me, but going out there and just having it right from day, you know, right from the beginning of the day, planning it out, but then being treated like crap and going through all the things that I've just told you for nothing. What ultimately ended up was nothing. There was nothing there. I know better places to go ride horses anyway. Far less money. Now they do have shows, like they'll have a horse presentation. I guess they have a dog show where the dogs run through these obstacles and things like that, trained dogs. I'm told the pig races still exist, but for whatever reason that day, I think there just wasn't a lot of people. It was pretty sparse, and most of the people that I did see were from the military on free entry. So there was a busload of military guys. It's like a perk, and so I guess they decided it just wasn't worth having it, even though I'm there. I paid full price, but you decide it's not worthwhile. I tell you, I've decided it's not worthwhile to ever go back. So anyway, what else we got here? I'm sorry to be so negative, but I've talked about that place with such glowing fondness in these videos, and I don't lie to you guys. If it seems like I'm always positive, it's because that's how I'm viewing something. But when something comes along that's a turd, I'm going to tell you, and that's what I ran. That's what I stepped in. All right, what do we got here? This is a glowing recommendation. Yeah. You should make a video about Armenia Airport. It sucks. It's new, but no AC. It's hot. One shop security sucks. One line. Yeah, fortunately, I don't do the airport thing. I just pick people up. But you're not wrong. What a bummer. It's no hippos for Medellin. Well, that at least that would have been a little interesting. Mark, thank you. What's it? $60 to see a typical farm. Yeah, it was. At least if you go to a farm, the farmer's going to be nice. It really, really surprised me that people just had a shit attitude. I mean, that's so hard to find anywhere in Colombia. That's a rare thing. And this whole place seemed to be infected with the we don't really care thing. It was very annoying. How did you find out about this place? Well, as I mentioned, I went there. I think you must have tuned in late. I went there 20 some years ago, and it was relatively new. And the family that I was shuffled around, but they were all related and staying with, they told me about it. And then I was curious and had some history and things like that. I wanted to go. So I went, had a great time, loved it. One of my favorite things I've ever done in Colombia. It was really awesome. For me, it ticked it ticks so many boxes of things that I really enjoy. And then to go back and eh, amazing the place is still in business. Maybe being for tourists, they don't rely on repeat visitors. I don't know. See that I hear you. That's not the kind of thing that you see here. People are just so friendly and welcoming, and here you got a place where people are paying to go, and you're getting this attitude, this treatment that's so unlike just people walking down the street. It was really bizarre. It was hard to figure. And I felt so bad for my friend, the way towards the end, I could see how bad she was struggling, and she would find reasons to stop for a little while. So then I started stopping so she wouldn't have to make up reasons, because she felt very self-conscious about her legs. She wanted to hold everybody up. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I know she was just in agony when it was all over. Okay, so that's that. Not much I can do about it. Let's see if there's anything in the slide. I put it together a slide thing, but I think I've already talked about it. So that's the front of the web page. Let me get here. There's the map on the right side. It's leaving my place in Armenia. Took about an hour to get there. Here's some extra rentals, a baby thing to push a baby around. I don't know what this goat rental is. This is a map of the park, and I don't know. We hit all of this, every red circle. Oh, this was a Tibetan bridge, closed. Also, they had a canopy thing where you can slide down over the valley. I forget what you call it. That was closed. This is where the horses were. The horses were there and available, but yeah, it was a bust. All right, zip line. Thank you. I tell you, you forget English after a while. About the only time I get to speak English, with few exceptions, are coffee time. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Time asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. So, doesn't have to be about that. Could be about anything. I mentioned was asked early on about the volcano. There's some memes making light of the volcano. There are a couple are pretty funny on Facebook. I think it went from yellow to orange alert, but it's usually in orange alert. Red alert is when it's imminent, and it could be. I mean, it's a number of times I've lived here. The one that's that most active is not the one that would have any effect in Armenia. Outside of, like you get for hundreds of miles around, debris, ashes falling or something. But that one has been imminent a number of times since I've lived here. I mean, it's like, whoa, is it gonna pop? Is it gonna pop? Oh, no, went back to sleep. So yeah, I don't know. Can't sweat the small stuff. Earthquakes have been on the radar lately. Did you already speak to them? Sorry, I did tune in late. I didn't talk about earthquakes today, but we're not seeing anything more than what's usual throughout Colombia, throughout everywhere. I mentioned that when I looked up earthquakes after living in Ecuador and got hit with that big one, I was looking at earthquakes and I started just going different places. And that's when I learned that Oklahoma on average has about 200 earthquakes a day. Earthquakes everywhere are pretty common. Some places more than others. And here we're pretty near where it's more than others. Kind of like, not like if you lived in California, but say between Oklahoma and California would be where we fall here. But, we get a little earthquake here and there, but it's always been like that. And there hasn't been anything like really bad. Now they had one that near Machala, but it affected Cuenca in Ecuador. But there really wasn't much that happened. All the damage was really from one building. Outside of, some people had broken plates or something, but the facade of this one building fell off the building, fell down into a car. Somebody got killed. But that's where all the damage was. And it's funny because, not funny, but you would see the news clips and that's all they would show. And you'd see things on the internet. No, that's all they'd show. But then the rest of the city was normal. But yeah, earthquakes are a thing. We had one not long ago. I felt it longer than usual. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. It was close to Cuenca. Where is it? Not good. It wasn't all that. Well, close is a relative term. It was south of Guayaquil, near Machala. If you were driving that, Cuenca is it's like more than twice as far. Well, it would be probably like 6 times further than the earthquake was to Machala. But it was enough, so that everybody felt it in Cuenca. But again, if it wasn't for that one building, it really wouldn't have been all that noticeable. What do you think of Cali? My wife's from there, wants us to move back there. I'm thinking I would melt living there. Yeah, Armenia seems better to this gringo, cooler weather. Yeah, the weather is much better. It's about 15 degrees cooler here on any given day. Right now, what is it? Hold on. 73 degrees. Yeah, Cali is hot. It's muggy. It's a lot of crime. It's a filthy city. People just throw their trash out in the road. It smells. A lot of criminal elements. A lot of, there's street people everywhere you go. Not just Colombia. Everywhere you go, there's street people for the most part, except maybe Disney World. but in Cali, it's especially bad. When they had the protests, the only place that was Bogota was violent and there was some damage, but the only place that was really bad was Cali. There's some nice areas in Cali. There's a lot of things in Cali to do and to see, but to me, it would be a miserable place to live. If you're from Cali, then of course you're going to like it. You could be from Beirut and love it. You could be from Afghanistan and love it if you're from there. We adapt to a lot of things. But as somebody who's not from Cali, so I have no particular allegiance either way, it would suck to live there as far as I'm concerned. I just, the heat alone, but then you add all those other things. It's like, why put up with all the garbage thrown in the street and all the dogs running around eating the garbage? And why put up with, you know, how muggy it is? And when you can live in places like Manizales, for example, that has all the same amenities, but you got no garbage in the street. You got no dogs running around eating garbage because it's not out there. And you got really comfortable temperature. And, you know, it's like, why would you do that? It's like, who wants to live in Detroit when you can live in Toronto, for example? You know, it's like, who chooses to live in Detroit? Well, people that grew up in Detroit, they'll go back there. But it's just not, you know, unless you get a job well paying, who wants to be there? What are the current travel requirements concerning CB? Is the same. It's like non-existent as far as I know. These things change in a drop of a hat. So check with the airlines or check with the government site. The last people I talked to didn't have to have any tests except to go back to the United States. They weren't requiring it coming in, but they were requiring it to get back into the U.S. I don't know if that's still the case. Some of these things, it's just kind of, from my point of view, it's kind of hopeless trying to keep up with it. And if I say something now and then somebody watches a video a month and a half from now and they think I'm giving out the wrong information, or maybe they hear what I say and act on it thinking that I was giving the right information, maybe it was right at the time. I really want to kind of avoid. I get a lot of messages asking me why I said such and such. I said, well, I said such and such because 6 months ago when I said it, it was true. So I'm not sure. Let's see, John. I was going for a vacation to Ecuador, but I seen on BBC there's a lot of trouble there, gangs. So I'm off to Cartagena for a week. I love the heat, but not the peddlers. Well, in Cartagena, if you stick on the block or two nearest the beach, you should be fine. If you venture into Cartagena 4 or 5 blocks deep, it gets kind of seedy. Cartagena is a tale of two cities in one. It's as grubby or as seedy as any place around, but the touristy part of it is actually very nice if you like the heat, and you do. As far as Ecuador, yeah, they've always had their problems, but they were very good at covering up their problems. There's a part of the government that actually actively put out tourist propaganda. So they would hide stories. They've really kind of stopped doing that, but they do have an issue with a growing problem with the Mexican cartels in Ecuador, just as they do in Colombia and everywhere else. You know, this border issue, whether you're for border or not, it's cartels that are running it, and they're making billions of dollars off of it, along with everything else. The cartels in Mexico are becoming some of the richest entities on the planet, and so they infiltrate. And in Ecuador, they've infiltrated pretty good. And one of the biggest problems they're having is the prison in Guayaquil is overwhelmingly filled with cartel gang members, whether Ecuadorian or Mexican. There's no border when it comes to the cartels. So you've got, last I heard, there's like 2,000 gang members, and they're constantly killing each other, rioting, all kinds of stuff, and some of that spills out into the populace. So yeah, there's an issue. But you go to places like Loja or even Cuenca, and you're not really going to experience much of that, if any, probably none. If you go to some of the beach towns like Manta, I mean, you'll be fine there. So I wouldn't hesitate going back if I had a reason to go back. For some reason, I lose the taste for Armenia in general, for Colombia, not only for the government, also for the Colombian people. Their culture sucks. Well, the wonderful thing about this world is you have so many choices of where to live and what you put up with. And when it comes to Colombia itself, there's so many differences from one area to another. I personally love it here. When you were here, you spoke highly of it. You've been away for a while. Maybe you found something that you like better, which is perfectly fine. I'm not here trying to sell Colombia. I could give a crap if anybody wants to come or they don't want to come. I just find that it's great for me. I really love being here, which is why I'm still here. HD chillin', thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a confusing mess. I agree. I would check. They need to just drop all this mess. I think they're scared just to admit beginning. Yeah. Yeah, all the things that many of us were saying and were getting banned and told that we couldn't say and censored and all that. And it's like all that stuff turned out to be true. And the whole thing was, we knew it because it was just common sense. You know, you could draw on certain experiences and understand that what we were being told was crap. What we were seeing was crap. I mean, compared to what they were telling us. The picture they painted was not what you would see when you go out and see people and businesses. And I mean, it was like two different, they're telling us one thing, but reality was something else. So, you know, you just inherently knew that you were being fed a line. And so I'm glad to see this stuff was finally falling away. And I hope that people learned enough to where that kind of thing never happens again. I felt probably most for people in Australia who are just treated like prisoners in their own country. May 11th will be the end date for USA for COVID mandate. Okay, so it's still, God knows why, but it's still going on there. So I guess it's easy to get a COVID test here. So when you go to return back to the USA, it's easy enough to get a COVID test. As much as I like Armenia, people, they're not great, as you mentioned before. Women are beautiful, and that's it. I think it's who you know, where you're meeting them, who you associate with. I've met seedy people. I've met scumbags here. I've met people that try to play, but the thing is, you're going to meet. What is it? Of any population, 10% are just awful. And it's not going to be different in Colombia. You're going to have your scumbags. The thing is, don't associate with them. Associate with decent people. And it's so easy to find friendly, decent people here. I just really like it. And the nice thing is, when you find it, you know, the nice, decent people, you can really trust people here that are good people. I could give stories, but not today. U.S. is a mess, guns, political strife, prices, angry white women. I will stay here. Yeah, they're going through some stuff, and I'm glad we're not here like that. In the U.S., if you question the response, you are called an anti-vaxxer and race. Yeah, I know. It was ridiculous. How people, you still have people that go around wearing masks, which is fine. They could wear 15 masks, but don't look at me because I'm not. You know, it's yeah. There's people just move on. Yeah, that's the thing when you talk about anything. You know, there's so many exceptions. You have, you know, you got one end that's an extreme in one direction. You got another end that's extreme in the other direction. So, you know, here you're going to have people on this end that are just thieves and crooks and shady scumbags, and depending on where you go, that can be greater or less. And one of the things I don't like about Cali is it's kind of heavy on the scumbag side of things. Not the majority, but you're far more apt to run into them than in a place like Armenia. Armenia, if you met 10 people, well, I'd probably have to put it like if you met 100 people, you might meet 4 or 5 people that, you know, kind of scumbags. It's not as heavy seated with evil as a lot of places. And it's so easy to run into nice people. I mean, any day that I go out, I run into people that are going out of their way to be helpful. And whether it's to me or it's things that I'm just observing, it's just always out there, always. And I like that. I notice those things, and I don't know, it's like not to sound crystallized here, but you know, that kind of positivity makes you feel good. When you see somebody, you know, helping an old man across the street, and you know, all these different things that you will see that are just very positive. It's nice to be around that, and it's a hell of a lot better than being around in a place where, you know, people are clutching their belongings and wearing their backpacks on their front, and you know, you see that a lot. Some just paranoid, but a lot of those places, when you're seeing locals do it, it's because where they're living, there's just a lot of problems. And I don't live in a place like that. I'll be traveling in the middle of June with my wife to Barranquilla, then to the coffee region to visit friends, hear from who are from there. So I hope all this mess is gone. Okay. Believe me, I speak Spanish perfectly. I know. And I notice that they do not using the right wording to speak. They're just stupid, even the way they speak. Now, come on. You got to hang with a better crowd. I have noticed, and I don't speak Spanish perfectly. I have noticed, but again, this is anywhere. If I'm walking down the street in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I bump into somebody and he could talk like a country hick, you could tell he's probably never got past 6th grade. And then you go walk down the street, you bump into somebody, he's got a good vocabulary, he's obviously well educated. It's the same here. You're going to bump into people that are just ignorant. But the majority of people that are in touch with society are college educated. It's amazing how many people here, the percentage, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but there's a high attendance rate and graduation rates in colleges here in the university. Now, there's another thing talking about the kind of propaganda that goes on in universities, but there's very highly educated people here, and there's a majority of them versus the handful that are not. And the funny thing is that a lot of people that came from Venezuela in these waves, you would think with the free education that they promoted, but it seems like, and I'm not beating up on Venezuelans, but it seems like the people that I run into from Venezuela tend to be poorly educated, where the people that I run into here in Armenia tend to be pretty well educated. So how much of this is Colombia and how much is this is just a symptom of everywhere? I mean, I don't care where you're from. I'm sure you can point to people that, you know, you think they grew up in Appalachia or something. Even a hillbilly can be intelligent. Well, absolutely. Just because his vocabulary is, yeah, I wasn't even speaking to that. I was just speaking to what he said about the way somebody speaks. And I'll pick up on that here, even with the Spanish that I have. When I find that somebody's using basic words, but I'm having trouble understanding them because of the way they're speaking, I can pick up on certain things. And I've actually had situations where I would be with a friend and somebody, we would meet. This happened several times. And they would talk, and when they were gone, I'd say, "Is it just me, or is that person like, you know, like maybe a high school dropout or something?" Oh no, they obviously they're not very educated, you know, kind of thing. So I mean, you can tell even if you're not fluent. And that's not to say that they're bad people either, so don't misunderstand me. I'm simply speaking about the language. Colombian generally are plain, yeah, no, they're not. If that's your sense of it, you are hanging out with the wrong crowd, because that's absolutely not true. That's not in my experience at all. If it was, I wouldn't be here. I'd be like you. I'd be somewhere else. Tell me her name and what did she do to you? Obviously, you're bitter about something. But when you were living here, you were loving it. So it's weird. You decided when you weren't living here that you were angry about something. Somebody burned you. Medellin, Santa Marta, several months each combined over the last 5 years. I agree 100% with your opinion, attitude regarding Armenia and Colombia. That's why I'm moving to Armenia. Yeah, if you travel very much, and I have, Colombia stands out. But there are places in Colombia that are just like Medellin. Everybody wants to go to Medellin, but I'll tell you, the culture in the coffee region is far nicer than what's in Medellin. Tell me her name and what she did to you. Something. Oh, butter is back. Lady in Jumbo told me there was an E. coli problem. I never lacked for butter, and right after, I think it was Tuesday. So I did the Sunday. It came up. Monday I didn't, but Tuesday I went to the supermarket and I took a picture. I was going to put it up on here, and I said, it's not worth it. But I took a picture of the butter section in the Lorella supermarket, which is actually, it's very small. If I went to the Olympica, it's huge. But if I filled the picture frame with stacks of butter, different brands. I only hang up with Colombian women. Yeah, and a lot of those women were pay as you go, as I recall. So, maybe there's that. If you meet the right people, you have friends and family for life. Completely agree. Hang up, hang out. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, where you go, what you do, it's going to have an impression on what you think about those people. But having been here over the span of 20 some years, and having been living here the last 4.5 years, having traveled to Cartagena and Bogota and Medellin and Bucaramanga and Popayan and Cali and Pasto and Ipiales and living in Manizales, and I've been to Ibague, and I've spent 10 days in San Andreas, and I've got a pretty good cross-section experience of Colombia. And when I do things as intensely as I do, because I make videos, at least this time around, I learn a lot. I question people. You know, it's not like I'm just here. I'm here digging into things. And I can tell you, these are for the most part good people. You're going to run into a bad seed, but depending on who you're associating with, will be the extent of the bad seeds that you're going to run into. You know, if you're associating with scumbags, you're going to have a higher rate of scumbags. And if you're associating with nice people, I mean, I hate to say it because it doesn't really mean everything, but if you're meeting people in church, there's a better chance that you're going to have people that are going to be a little more trustworthy. And that's, of course, before you say it, but that doesn't mean well, it means something. It means that they at least believe in some kind of moral structure, whether they follow it or not. In other words, it just increases your odds. And there's all points in between. Most of he says he only hangs out with Colombian women. In my entire life, I've gravitated towards females. Yes, for the obvious reasons, but beyond the obvious reasons, it's just easier for me I'm very selective when it comes to a male friend, but I can be a friend of any female. Male friends, the friendship goes deeper, but it's easy to hang out with women. And I have dozens of female friends here, not just acquaintances, but friends. And with very few exceptions, they're all college educated. So I don't know. You handles this stuff very well. Have a great day. Well, I take it, I get where he's coming from. I just want people to understand that it's not because it's Colombia or because it's Ecuador. Some things are just the nature of a population. George, thank you very much. Appreciate it. If you run into people like yourself and the standards you hold yourself to, you'll find the right group of people anywhere. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you for making it concise. Colombian people talk at the same time. How do they understand each other? Yeah, some do, but nowhere near as much as it didn't used to be this way. But when I was last in the U.S. 8 years ago, for probably my last 5 years in the U.S., it seemed that there was this growing trend for everybody to talk over each other. It was very frustrating. It was very frustrating to have a conversation. And it just seems like sadly, there's a growing trend where people are becoming more selfish and they're only interested in what they have to say. And they really have no interest in listening to what you have to say. It didn't used to be that way, but that's the way it is now. And whatever happens in the U.S. will happen to a lesser degree, but will happen here also. So I think that's what you're experiencing. Just got tired of Colombia. All the stupid requirements to travel there. Mexico got no requirements for traveling at all. They only care to bring money and tourists to their country. Well, I get that. You know, I knew you were upset about something, and I get that. But I can't agree with that. That's just you talking. But there's issues in Mexico too. If you're there, you've been there what, a year? After a while, maybe you'll start to notice some of the things there. I know Mexico very well, very, very well. And over the years, I've been there many, many times, different places. I wouldn't live there if you paid me. Not to say there aren't some awesome places in Mexico. And I love the food quality. I don't necessarily mean the quality, but the flavor. There's some really good food there, far superior than in Colombia. But I wouldn't live there, like I said, if you paid me. Time to watch some baseball. Sadly, I'm a Red Sox fan, and we're over time. Okay, guys, thank you all for supporting the channel. I appreciate it by being here, by leaving comments in not just here the live, but below the video during the week. I read them all, and I very much appreciate it. I saw the comment. Guy says, Lauren, it doesn't snow in Uruguay. You're wrong. Well, it does snow in Uruguay, and maybe I'll talk about it. Maybe not what you figure is snow, and it may not be in the capital city all the time. But if you're on the coast, you get this kind of mix of rain and snow, and it'll accumulate on the ground. Like I say, I haven't been there, but I have a friend who lived there for a number of years, and he's the one that told me, and he sent me pictures of snow. So, you know, he doesn't have a snow machine, but you go to the internet and you'll read. But then I did go to the internet after you said that, and it said the last big snow was 1930, and it showed pictures. Then I looked at a different article and said, well, the last big snow where it was deep was 1960. Well, was it 1930 or was it 1960? And then they mostly are talking about Montenegro, but if you go to the higher elevations, snow's pretty common. And if you're out on the Atlantic coast, it's that slushy stuff is very common. It's cold and miserable in the winter in some places in Uruguay. Okay, and very windy. But like I said, I've never been there, so blame my friend. And we're out. I'll see you next week. Ciao.